I do believe that Lars Larson is with us now. Good morning, sir. My brother in broadcast. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine this morning, Paul, and sorry about the confusion. I'm glad to be able to join you this morning.
Well, you guys are on a weird time. What can I tell you? So you just got up not too long ago, I'm sure. That's the way it goes,
no, but I usually get up about 5:45 our time, so it's just after 6 o'clock here. But this is what time I'm usually up working, so I'm glad to talk to you.
What people don't understand, show prep is it never ends. Show prep is 24 hours a day. Whenever you're awake, it's show prep. Basically, that's how it goes.
That's right. That's right. 6 hours of prep for 6 hours on the air. But I enjoy it because I've always enjoyed reading, and I like following what's going on during the day. Although that piece of news you brought us about the young lady being shot, absolutely. This is the kind of ugliness this country faces right now.
You know, and it's one of those sensitive subjects, too, that you can't bring up unless you better choose your words. Because if we find out the majority of people who are doing this, and then we say, well, we have to understand that has to be recognized before we can find the solution to this one way or the other. Are these folks people who are carrying guns illegally? Do they have a record? Are they back on the streets? If you took that demographic out of the equation, what would the actual crime rate be in your city, wherever your city might be? But you can't delve into it that way because of political sensitivity now.
Well, except that some of us have to bust that barrier of political We've got to bust that barrier of political sensitivity. You got me okay, Paul?
Yeah, you're loud and clear. Go ahead, sir. There's this delay there, but we can forget about that one.
Because I think what we have to say to people is we're going to tell you who's committing these crimes, why they appear to be committing the crimes, and then we're going to incapacitate them. And the current political correctness is, well, we have to find a way other than locking them up. I don't think we've found a way yet that is better than simply incapacitating criminals and making sure that they know if you do this kind of thing, you will suffer a consequence. You'll suffer years of loss of freedom. Now, we'll give you plenty of warnings before you get there. But the minute you start committing serious crimes, you get serious consequences. And right now, the Democrats, for the most part, want to take those consequences away. You know that I live in a state that has a Democrat governor, a mostly Democrat legislature. It's the state of Washington, named after George Washington. I keep waiting for them to suggest renaming it because they don't like him. They don't like Lincoln. They don't like Washington. They don't like Jefferson. But in this state, they're cutting criminals loose from prison. And you say, what do you suppose is going to happen when you cut the police force, when you stop prosecuting people for crimes, and you start letting criminals out of prison? I know what's going to happen. Crime's going to go up, and it has.
But haven't they gotten that message now? Because places like, and I thought you were in Oregon, you're in the state of Washington. Some of these states now, Washington, Oregon, even San Francisco, some of these people, Minnesota's another one, they see this defund the police situation is not working, and with all the hullabaloo and the cameras are off and the news media has left town as far as this subject is concerned, they're kind of backtracking on this one. My question is, have your people in the Pacific Northwest and the states of Washington, the states of Oregon, are they so ingrained in liberalism that they will vote for the same people again, much as they did for the governor of California on the recall? Are they so ingrained in there's no way out, or are they changing their mind little by little?
They do seem to be changing their mind little by little, but it's in baby steps. For example, last fall, so almost a year into the pandemic, we saw Seattle re-elect a whole bunch of the same people to the city council that they had elected before. And then it's still going, the count is still going on right now. There was a recall aimed at the one member of the Seattle City Council who is a full-blown socialist, and she makes no bones about it. Her name is Shama Sawant. She's been on the program, and there's a recall aimed at her. She may squeak out of that by a few votes. Now, Paul, if you were a politician and you were elected to office, and then the people became so angry that they said, we're going to recall you from office altogether, and you then escaped by the skin of your teeth, as Thornton Wilder would have called it, and you just barely eke out a stay in office. Wouldn't you take a message from that and say, I must not be doing what the people want me to do if I came that close to getting kicked out?
Well, you would, but we see that, for instance, in this horrendous case in the city of Jackson. We see that over and over. I mean, the mayor of Jackson was reelected, and you go back and you look at every metric out there, from the economy to crime and everything else. It's been a failure. It's been an absolute abject failure, but they constantly do this. So when you start, it's much, Lars, like the school boards and what's going on in school boards. Ultimately, we have to look in the mirror as parents out there who have let this take place and transpire for decades. We just didn't get involved. Only the liberal activists have been out there trying to recruit school board members, and they understand the importance of this. We've got most of the people who couldn't tell you who the school board member is or when they are elected. So, I mean, it's just a fact of it's just facts.
Well, so, and Paul, to add to your facts, think about what the school board is supposed to represent. It's supposed to represent the community. Now, people often say that's parents. I say it's parents and taxpayers, because at any given time, about 80 to 90% of the taxpayers in a school district do not have kids in school at that moment. They may have had kids there. They may be planning to have kids there. Had kids, but they're paying the taxes, and you need to respond to them. Most school boards do not represent the community. They represent the teachers' union, and the teachers' union is very powerful. And then you wonder, well, who should the government represent? That should represent all of us. And yet, for whatever reason, they've decided to go all politically correct. They respond to problems that are population, and the rest of the population gets ignored. And let me tell you about the latest danger, and I've been talking about it on the show for close to a decade now. A friend of mine who was a prosecutor said, Lars, you have to realize, you know who George Soros is? And I said, yeah, I know exactly who George Soros is. He said, well, they've got a new tactic. The Democrats and the liberals have decided we can't get state legislatures to liberalize the laws, the criminal laws of America. And we can't get the Congress to liberalize the criminal laws. And for the most part, we can't get the courts to do it. So here's how we're going to do it. We don't have to change any of those things. All we have to do is elect different district attorneys and prosecutors. It depends on what state you live in, whether they're called a DA or a prosecutor. And if you elect that DA or prosecutor, you don't have to change the law, because the person who actually decides what criminals get charged with will simply do it for you. He'll negate the law. And I've seen it happen up close. There's a guy who's the district attorney, just entered office last year in Multnomah County, which is the county around Portland. I live about 12 miles north of Portland. I'm right on the boundary between Oregon and Washington. And Mike Schmidt is a self-avowed social justice warrior. He considers his Antifa as his friends. He's the DA in a county of 800,000 people. And last year, he walked into office and said there are about 1,100 people charged with crimes related to all these riots that have been going on. I'm going to decline to prosecute 1,000 of those cases in the interests of justice, is the phrase he uses.
We see it in Mississippi. Number one, I think we have 3 DAs who either are in office or they were backed by George Soros. 2 things on Soros. Not only that, but his push for marijuana legalization for decades he's been very successful, and he's about to be successful in the state of Mississippi as well, medical marijuana here. But, I mean, he's been pushing that for the longest time. One of the advocacy, and I know you probably have done it too, is just ask people when they've got the spare moment, go search Open Society. Look at those fingers, those metastasized little fingers of influence. You'll see things like the holy nuns of the Catholic Church's right-wing or left-wing, just all of these different groups that he's funded out there, whether it's to attack religion, culture, whatever it happens to be. Lars, I wish we had more time, sir. I appreciate it very, very much. We'll catch you again. Who's on tonight? Do you know yet, or have you said it?
We don't have the guest list for tonight, but we're working on it.
You know what that means? More show prep.
That's right.
See you later, sir. You got it. Thank you, man.